All right, we're live.
We are live. DeClembe Mutombo in a new locale, in a new setting, finally out of like the Clem Cave. I don't think I've ever seen you anywhere other than a Barstool Sports office, a bar that we were doing an event at, or that Clem Cave. That's it.
The Clem Cave, I got the little Barstool flag in the background. I'm at my parents' house. The power went out the other day. It was a scheduled outage because they're fixing.
I was going to say, you guys lose power like once a week up there. It's
not exactly
Clem's losing power.
A scheduled outage. That's weird too, though. Like that only happens to Clem. Like I'm just going to shut off all the electricity in this town.
That only happens to poor people. I don't know why it's happening to Clem.
Hey, man, I connect the two dots. I need a fucking raise is what I need. Damn, I can get out of this. It's not about when we lose power. It's more like, oh, we have power this week. That's kind of how it breaks down. No, it's because, I mean, I don't know if this is the case with you guys or around New York or what, but like, you know, the whole people can debate climate change all you want. It's windy like every single day these days. The wind has turned it up a notch. Yeah. So they're like, they've had to demolish a bunch of trees and like put up a whole bunch of power lines so it just stops happening, all this crazy weather. So I'm now at my parents' house for the day to work. And I'll tell you, this is where I used to call in for Podfathers and I just get angry and go on my rants back in the day. Remember that? Yeah. So based on that, plus the Mets' current streak, this might be a little bit of a touchy show right here. I can tell you that.
Things are not good in Mets world at the moment, although – you know, it's always so funny when you do a weekly podcast particularly with the Mets. First half of the week, if we were to recap it, like, great, we're finally cooking, we're clicking, we're on a winning streak, things are coming together, the rotation looks great. But then the second half of the week, and more importantly, just last night or 2 nights ago, depending on when you're listening to this, what I would have to hope will be, I'm going to say it, that's going to be the worst game of the year. Or like if we're going to be contenders, that has to be the worst game of the year. You can't have anything worse. I don't want to see anybody putting up fucking 20 runs on us. So, and like that 7-run inning, I believe it was, that can't be, if you're going to be a good team, that's got to be one of your worst efforts, if not the worst effort of the year. So I am lucky because I time traveled last night and I did not experience this game in the slightest. Last night was, or Wednesday night was 3 cheat day for KFC Radio. So we did a live show where we all celebrated and dabbled with the 3 cheat. And I was zooming. And I have that game didn't happen to me. We'll talk about the Robert Gesellman blip. He returned from the blip. I got snapped out of existence last night. So I think I even at one point did watch a little bit of the game, and I don't. That game didn't happen to me, boys. So I picked a good day. Spin zone. You know how we keep saying we want things to be different, right? So we always have a hot start. We had a slow start. We were happy about that. Even when things are bad, as long as they're different, that means we're on the wedding when the Bartolo home run gets hit. We leave the game early for Robin Venture's grand single. Well, this year.
Barstool Internet.
I was going to say,
I'm glad that it's not just me.
What?
We're in the same building, and you're cutting in and out. I was like, "Is this my computer, or what the fuck's going on?"
No, God's cutting out. I love it. I'm in the fucking woods here, and I have better internet than both you chumps at an internet company.
I've done 3 interviews. I've done 3 interviews this week, and every time, I just can't do it anymore. I hate it. I'm going to actually smash my computer. I'm switching computers now. Hopefully it'll be better.
So, to pick up on that, though, so KFC didn't get to see it, and Clem didn't get to see it, and it was the one game that you really didn't want to be awake for anyway.
Oh, okay, great. Clem, I didn't know that you were lucky enough, too. I'm going to just email it to your Gmail.
Yeah. So, this will hit home for, obviously, the 2 Clancys and anyone else with kids. There's just those nights where both your kids refuse to sleep, and you just look them in the eye. You're like, this is not going to – it's just going to either be like we can make it till midnight together where you're just doing that dance of trying to put them down. They get up. They say, oh, no, I just want to do this thing. I just want to do that thing. And they just completely wear you down. Or I say I just lay down in a room, take my chance, 50-50 chance that I'm going to fall asleep in the room with, one of them, in this case, Sienna, and I'm just going to miss everything that happens at night. And I just completely missed the Mets game. I saw the Lindor home run, and then I went in, put her to sleep, missed that, missed the disaster of the Mets game, missed an incredible Knicks game, which was fucking awesome. So it's like kind of the good and the bad, perfectly balanced as all things should be. And when I saw in the morning exactly what had happened, I said, well, that was a net positive right there, because I missed the Mets get shit on. I missed the Knicks win, which sucked. But in the end, they did win. And I missed like the feeding frenzy for Frank the Tank. Frank the Tank was in pessimist heaven last night. You know, like the other night, he had 23 tweets in an hour. And it was, you know, when the Mets were just doing nothing. And it's funny when they like came back against the Cubs, there was just radio silence. And then once they started doing bad again, just started feeding frenzy. Frank the Tank tweeted at me last night. I slept through it. The Mets will never be good again. And my response this morning was, Frank, they're in first place. We're in first place right now.
Here's good again. Weird. When did you think the Mets were good, Frank? Like good again?
Again?
What situation did you think that they were good?
Here's what's so funny. On the one hand, I certainly understand where Frank the Tank's coming from, because I am like Frank the Tank, you know, half. I'm like 50% Frank the Tank. On the other hand, Frank is such a an analytical sports fanatic, you know, like he knows all the numbers and he has the memory of a fucking elephant and like can recall all these teams and knows how sports and baseball goes, you know. We're like, you just think he would be more, you know, like, no. You know, the 1987 Athletics started off this slow and then they ended up winning the pennant. Like he's so emotional about it that I'm surprised how much he loses on like the sports analytics side of it all. If anybody should be more like level-headed, it's the guy who runs Sports Encyclopedia since 2001. But nope, in his mind, you know, they're just the worst ever. And yeah, last night it's a dangerous territory for Frank the Tank, because when you start to build a persona for yourself and you have this angle of like, I'm the pessimistic Mets fan, you know, you start to get on thin ice where you almost want bad things to happen so you can have your crazy tweets. And next thing you know, you're rooting for them to lose. And that's no bueno. People were always saying that to me, like, oh, I think you want them to lose so you can do this. And I was like, I sincerely promise you, I do not. But I can't speak for everybody, Frank. You better be careful. Next thing you know, you're legitimately rooting against your own team so you can send, you know, stupid tweets about how Gesellman sucks.
And so I went back because that's the other thing. So Lindor hits the home run last night, gets on the board, you know, beautiful swing, fucking moonshot. Absolutely great to see him on the board. And I was just saying in general, I was like, all the Lindor haters, which I think we've seen all over the place, is Beltran all over again, the Blame Beltran crew, and all the people that just give New York fans a bad name because they go crazy on a player 12 games into his career in New York that he sucks, he's going to be overrated and all that kind of stuff. It was just nice to see them get on the board and shut all those other people. Someone said the Lindorks. I love that. I was just going to say
the Lindorks. The Lindorks is someone in the comments. I'll look through. We'll make sure we get him his credit. The Lindorks, I think, is such a good, like, and then I saw someone, Clem, reply to your tweet and said, like, you know what? Let me get it verbatim, because this guy was such an asshole and really didn't realize like how much he is proving kind of our point. But you had tweeted.
Tweeter the Great was the person that tweeted Lindorks. So, I mean,
yeah, but let me get you the reply the guy fucking hated. The anti-Lindor. Okay, so where is it? Where is it? Yes. AJ Pitch. We'll all be sick in 6 years when he can't play shortstop at a competent level anymore when he's making $35 million a year. But yeah, celebrate his solo home run in April 2021. It's like, so yeah, celebrate the home run occurring right now while you worry about something that's going to happen 6 years from now. And we're being the weird ones. We're focusing on the games occurring at the moment. You are bringing up hypothetical situations that are going to happen 6 years down the road. Who are these people who are worried about the back end of these 10-year contracts? Well, they're all going to be dead by then.
How about this? Would you, because we kind of went through this, Robinson Cano is a guy who was absolutely finished, and you didn't want him. But we didn't get any of the good years. If we got Robinson Cano in his prime, I'd probably be like, well, this is what it is.
Yes.
There was a time when Johan was supposed to be the savior, and then there was a time when Johan was completely done, and I was like, you know what? 2007 and 2008, I thought he was going to be the answer. Now, that didn't end up happening, but that's just Mets luck. That is what it is. Right. And we had epic collapses that, but he was going to be the ace in the playoffs. Now, terrible, terrible things happened to the Mets. So I understand that. But he was worth it. He was overpaid by the end of his contract. Maybe we might even still be paying him. I don't even know. Bobby Bonilla that too.
He was so worth it, man.
But
I think
it is what it is.
Like DeGrom is obviously now like the greatest thing we've all ever witnessed. But people forget, man, when it was Johan Day, when that changeup was working. And he did it kind of like smooth and like cool, that perfectly groomed goatee. People forget, man. I will never forget. I was in my cube at Deloitte when I got the news that we traded for him. And this guy, Paul DeBonis, was the guy who broke the news to me. He was a big Yankee fan. And I thought he's fucking with me. And I refused to believe it until ran to my computer, hopped on Mets blog. Matt Cerrone confirmed it for me. That was like one of the happiest moments of my life. I went out and bought Johan jerseys like the second they were available. I remember being like outside of Modell's like 10 a.m. being like, can I have a Modell jersey, please? Such a dork. But anyway, yeah, like the Lindorks are brutal. It's really embarrassing. I think I replied to one of them saying like, these are probably the guys who still think that like wins matter as a fucking stat. Like these guys are just talking out of their ass. They have a hard on for hating this guy for one reason or another, or they fancy themselves to be like financial wizards that, like they understand like the market value, the net present value better than you. So, all that bullshit's like, we are 10, 12, whatever game.
And they're the same guys that would be like, we should have got Trevor Story. We should have saved the money for Trevor Story. How do you know the same thing doesn't happen to him? How do you know we don't get him next year and he starts slow and then you hate him?
And he's not
they have 50 at bats.
Right. I mean,
there's not even a single size. And that being said, let's say we win the World Series, knock on wood, in like 3 years. You could just pay him the rest of the contract and he could never play another game again. And I won't give him a fuck.
Like that just one point about
it should be more.
If the Mets win the World Series, I'm probably retired. I'm probably going to stop watching baseball. So I don't care a second about 6 years from now, Lindor.
Yeah, I think I would. You got to be along for the repeat, right? So you got to try.
But it'll change everything. It'll be so different. My whole life will be so different.
If the Mets win the World Series, whichever year they then don't win the World Series, so like. I mean, that's so hard to repeat these days, but I got to be all in trying to go back to back. If like they came out of the gates awful and by the midway point we're like 1,000 games out, I think I would take a hiatus, a sabbatical. I would retire for a bit.
But that victory lap year, it'll just be so different. So it'll almost be like a retirement because I'll just be like, but last year, it's so different.
If we were to make it to the playoffs after winning a World Series, I can't believe we're having this conversation. What are you doing?
This is fantasy land.
Off of a 16-4 beatdown, no less.
We're talking about what we're gonna do after.
We just lost 16-4.
Luis Guillorme was pitching 12 hours ago.
Lindor's kid is going to be on the team when we win.
Guys, if we do go back to back, we got to start thinking about the three-peat. But I think I would
talk about Jackson DeGrom is going to lead us to this World Series, by the way.
All right. So anyway, this game, so happy I missed it. I really haven't even seen highlights. It was just a massacre. I mean, I saw it went from like Peterson to Gazelman to Barnes or whatever. It was like 6 runs, 4 earned runs, 6 earned runs. It was just an absolute shit show, huh?
All right, Kevin. All right, I'm happy you transitioned us because I do know what happened last night, and we have to have a talk now. This is going to be difficult, but it has to be said here. This is a guy issue. When the Mets need a run, and when the Mets are down and they need a run now, who do they call?
They call J.D. Davis. What's his number? 877 runs
now.
Soon runs now. Runs now.
Immediately.
Runs soon now.
Now the problem with that is when the Mets opponents have men on base, and they need a run now, who do they call?
They call
JD Davis.
877 runs now for the opponent.
He is
Just an
officially
open
the
number.
enemy of Mets Twitter. He is so we always have to have at least one person that like basically the entire fan base hates. Jeurys Familia is just that guy in the bullpen. He's going to be that guy until the day we die. I think JD Davis is our enemy.
I'm not going to allow it. He is my guy. He is when you become my guy, when you are a capital G guy of mine, I ride until we crash and burn. And we have crashed. We have crashed with JD Davis. It's a matter of if we're going to burn or not. And
There's smoke.
I will be there. There's smoke. There's one of those, like, you know, in the movies, the car's flipped over. There's a crash. I'm hanging upside down, and there's shattered glass. I still got my fucking seatbelt on, and I'm, like, looking around, and I see, like, there's a little, like, trail of oil leading, and there's a spark. And you know what's going to happen for me? He's my guy. Kaboom! I'm blowing up because when I don't bail on my guys. Although, boy, it's getting tough. I mean,
I've never seen that before. There's always been a game where you're like, okay, like he fucked up the whole game for the pitcher. On back-to-back nights to do that, where the Taijuan Walker was ready to get out of that inning, and Peterson easily would have been out of that inning, and next thing you know, they have to throw 40 pitches and get pulled with the loss. I was like, holy shit!
Yeah,
and it's not even like he's doing it different every single time. Like he's a mental midget when it comes to it. Like he gets the ball,
you watch your fucking mouth, all right?
this is going to be tough.
He double clutches, doesn't throw him out. The next one doesn't double clutch. He just hops 4 times, doesn't throw him out. Then he tries to turn 2, can't throw him out. I'm like, holy shit! It just compounds. I've never seen anything like it.
The double clutch is the strangest thing in baseball. It's just like watching a car wreck, but actually in slow motion. Everything, and you're like, oh no, and then by then it's gone, and it just usually and then it just looks like late. Like, you know, he throws it away. I don't know, something happened, you know, but you can see it happening with the double clutch, and it's horrifying.
You know, I hate to say it, and a lot of people don't say it because it's, you know, it's like against the rules here in Mets land. But David Wright, as a third baseman, used to do some wondrous shit with his glove, and sometimes not even his glove, his bare hands. He was great at like literally fielding the ball. But that guy, his throws across the diamond were never comfortable for me. And I think that people love David Wright so much, and a lot of times he would make up for it with his bat. But I always felt like I was on an island all alone, being like, don't you got, like, does anybody else see this? Because there was always the pop in the glove, and then he like sidearmed it, and it was always these lollipop throws. And I would watch guys like Manny Machado who would just be like, boom, like on a line, just like it was a zip line, just zap, like right over to, I mean, that pop on the first baseman's glove. And I was like, that's what I fucking want. I want a guy who could throw
Well, Manny Machado has a spinal cord. So.
Yeah, well, that's certainly, yeah, looking back on it, no wonder he couldn't fucking throw it. He doesn't have a fucking, his vertebrae are all broken or whatever. But my point being that, like, you know, third base has been, you know, give me Robin Ventura, like, other than that, it's like, it's been terrible for basically my whole life. David Wright kind of covered it up because, like I said, you know, if you were to say, man, the Mets have never had a third baseman, it's like, oh, what are you talking about? Yes, we have. But, you know, the Mets have never had a fielding third baseman that I think I've like ever been comfortable with. You know, the Ty Wigingtons of the world. And I would have loved if we could have stuck with Melvin Mora and placed him there and figured
Clem's
that
gonna
out.
get mad at me. But you can't tell me Hosmer didn't know that ball was going to get lollipopped over to first base.
Yes.
There's only one reason Hosmer makes that
blames.
mad dash to the plate, and he knows that Duda is going to be under pressure because he's getting this little soft toss from David Wright.
That was one of the more upsetting, but really like tip your cap moments when after the World Series or maybe after that game, it came out that the Royals scouting report was like, make their first baseman make a play. He can't. Like, they knew that Duda was like that guy who was going to crack under pressure. But the reason why there even was pressure in the first place was because David Wright kind of came over, cut that ball off, and did his little shuffle thing, lollipopped it over, and then, you know, then he had to rush it. But that's never talked about. You know, it's never mentioned because it's either – either you can't really see it. It's not an error like he threw it away or anything. It's just these little things that make a difference. And JD Davis, in defense of my guy, you can't tell me that he went into that offseason being like, well, the DH is here now. Like, like the DH is going to be universal. There's no way they're going to just have one season where they don't do it and then go right back to it. There's no way that happens, right? That would be ridiculous. Enter Major League Baseball. I mean, that's got to really suck when you think that you've got that in the bag. And then it's just like, nope, you've got to play the whole game now. Oh.
And on the flip side of that, Alonso, same thing. He was missing the scoops, and he just kept coming off the bag every time he tried to stretch. We've got two corners. Don't even get me started.
I mean, the 2 games ago when I wasn't time traveling, there was that play where it was a throwing error, and it was JD Davis's error because he fucking the throw stunk. But Ron was even like, oh, that's an in between hop. There's nothing Pete could have done with that. It was a pretty it was actually a good hop. I feel like it was up and right in, and he just botched it. So right now, it's a big time. Hold your breath. If a ball's hit to the hot corner, it's gonna be ice cold. So I don't know what do you do though? Like what he's got to at least give him a break. Like
he's like Rube Baker from Major League. Like he's got to start reading the Playboy magazines for the articles and just throwing it over there, not thinking about it.
He's got to have some sort of I want him to go see a sports psychologist before anything. Like before it gets too late, you got a Chuck Knobloch situation, Mackie Sasser type shit. So that
I just want to apologize. I want to apologize to the listeners too, because we just went from talking about the Mets winning the World Series and potentially repeating to taking them back to the Lucas Duda throw. So we just went from the sweetest of sweets to the sourest of sours. And it's all because, and again, I knew bringing up JD Davis was going to be a tough thing. It's someone's guy on the show, and I like him too. But like you said, first of all, third base is just a jinxed position for the Mets. And David Wright, I now think the fact he survived that long and thrived for the time that he did at third on the New York Mets. I feel like if he was on any other franchise, he would have been a legendary player, inner circle Hall of Fame kind of shit. And it's just that curse just gradually wore him down. But at the same point, you're right. JD Davis is like all of us. When knowing the next season, he's with the DH, it's like when you hear the weatherman say 99% chance we're going to get a foot of snow. And he's like, I'm not, I'll work on my ground balls at third. Don't worry, guys. Like us, not doing their homework, not studying for the test, just having a fucking fun off season. And then boom, no DH because Major League Baseball. And I don't know, guys. I don't want to be one of those after 12 games, a Lindor kind of person. But I almost feel like we have Guillorme. He's proven he's done it with the bat. I almost think you got to have JD Davis. If I need runs now, I go to JD Davis. If I need someone to play third base, I got to go to Guillorme.
You go to anybody other than JD Davis.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
and he can pitch.
I
have. He's like our best bullpen arm.
I'm legally bound to defend my guy. I think you're wrong. I think you stick it out. I think you make it work because when that bat is cooking, there's going to come a time when the offenses really start to click. And I want JD in the mix for that. I want him out here just banging out extra base hits. And so, no, I disagree. But, a few more of these, another game like this, it's going to be ugly. So, the third, I'd love to tell you that the third base situation is going to get any better, but it's the Mets, and so it probably never will.
Let me just say this, too. I'm fully prepared that, if the time comes when Seth Lugo comes back from the DL and he's not the same Seth Lugo, I'm going to be saying Puerto Rican as many times as possible to get you guys back on my side. And if he doesn't look the part, I'm going to, I will fight to the death that is my guy. But at the same point, it's Taijuan Walker, which, by the way, let's go over what it was, too. The umpiring the last couple games has been a process.
Was it bad last night?
The fact that it's There was two balls that were called on Anthony Rizzo that were right in the middle of the K zone, And McCann was pissed about it. And then the night before, that ump was terrible, and Rojas finally got thrown out, which was good to see.
Yeah.
But it's it's very old school Metsy when you just have a guy who's just completely costing you games and you just keep throwing him out there. So that's the only thing that kind of drives me crazy about JD. I feel like we've turned the corner on that. at least until Cano comes back next year and drives us crazy again at second base. But
Can we all agree? Like, I mean, the thought that I can't believe that we'll have to go back to rooting for Robinson Cano.
I don't think he'll
then
play
the DH
second,
will
though.
be back, right? I don't think he should ever see the field ever again.
Yes, but just in general, like, come on, like they got to do something before that, right? You can't, especially like if things start to click this year, there's just no way that you can. I don't care what the fucking contract says. If you're throwing him in the mix and disrupting something that's when we're going for our repeat, we're going to go back-to-back years and you're going to try to put Robinson Cano in the mix. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. And clearly we're not broken at all right now. We're clicking. We're going to go to the World Series.
I think that Uncle Steve won't be held captive by his contract. So you run him out there, you let him DH a few times. And if he's not hot, you just sit him on the bench and eventually cut him. But
and I know a lot of times I talk about Robinson Cano. People are like, what are you talking about? He was good last year. And like, I know actually he had a much better season than the one prior than that. But, you know, short season, pandemic.
The reason he had a much better year is why he's missing this year.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, like, you know, the pandemic, short season, rampant amounts of steroids. But
let him go. Let him try it. Just let him try. He got away with it for like 95% of his career. I could use even if it's like 6 weeks of him hitting hot, bring him in, let him get pinched again, and then we'll move on, you know?
Totally, man.
Or put him at third base and let just nature take its course as it does in Mets, and he's just gonna like disappear. He'll get fucking turned into ash like a Thanos snap. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but it will.
Also, isn't there a chance gambling's getting legalized?
Anything can happen.
Recreational drugs. Maybe MLB will just be like, steroids are great. And then I want the veterans. I want the guys who know how to do the cycles and know, like this guy knows what's up. This guy probably played till he's 50 once it gets legalized.
Sure.
That's like Nelson Cruz. They have to be testing that guy like every single day.
But he knows what
It's
he knows
unbelievable.
what he's doing.
Do you know what he said? The reason why he's hitting so well is he learned how to nap 2 years ago.
Nap?
Naps in the clubhouse. Yep. He needs his body to recover. That's what they're going with.
Are you kidding? And they specifically said to recover.
What a great story.
Like, that's insane.
Oh yeah, my body just needs like more downtime, so like I am on like the cycle of sleep. I was like,
he's got some kind of hyperbaric
sleep.
chamber that just plugs right into his veins, and that's what he sleeps in. And it's just like his whole blood system is steroids just coursing through his body.
That's almost
nap.
Disrespectful to the audience, to the the media and the fans, and like don't spit in my face with that. I just take naps now. That's ridiculous. But good for him. Tip my cap to him.
Wasn't there a basketball player who was like, "Oh, I cut out candy, and that's why I'm having such a great year"? I forget who that was. It was like, I just like stopped eating Skittles.
Lamar was the candy guy. Yeah.
He just took a shopping cart full of it.
I think candy was that's like a term for heroin, probably. But you mentioned Thanos and Gazelman, who I think is a really cool guy and funny, and I thought this was a great comment.
That's great when that's what you lead with.
Yeah, I think he's
really funny,
funny dude, and I think that was a funny comment that he's back from the blip because it seemed like it's been so many years, and let's time stone this shit and rewind it and like keep you in the blip, man. Frank had predicted that Gazelman was going to lose 10 straight games. So, we have yet to see that come to fruition. But yeah, that as far as I've seen during my blip experience last night was pretty ugly.
You know what about Gazelman? I just like a reliever with long hair, so I'll always give him another chance. He kind of looks like Bucky from Captain America as well, the Winter Soldier and all that kind of stuff. 2 nights ago he was good. He kept us in the game when everything was kind of going to shit. So I'll be fine with Gazelman as long as he's like the bullpen has such a low bar to clear for me in terms of like just being good enough. Obviously our boy Loop there it is. Diaz has. Let's be honest, other than that Marlins game, he's been fucking good. So we got to give him credit when he's actually humming. Did you hear that stat from Gary Keith and Ron too, where it was like the Mets are like 923 in Wrigley than that playoff run where Daniel Murphy was the hottest player in baseball those 2 games. Yeah. Like they're low key terrible in Wrigley lately, which I didn't realize. Yeah. So I'm not going to freak out about this series.
To speak on some positives from this series, it was nice to see Arrieta up again and just remember that NLCS. Like beating Jake Arrieta in 2015 was probably the most impressive thing in my mind, like personally, that I experienced as a Mets fan. Like, and there's been, even in a lot of the recent playoff runs, like that series against the Dodgers where they beat Kershaw and Greinke, and like they've done a lot of impressive stuff when they have been good. But man, Arrieta at that point was like unfucking touchable. I remember thinking, he's got to be on steroids. This is insane. That whole Cubs team, they just came back down to earth at the exact right point. But I beating, what was that, 2-0 that game? It was like a pitcher's duel, and we did just enough to beat him. That brought back some good memories. This series, not great, but remembering that Cubs series was.
He pitched in the freezing cold with no sleeves, right?
Yes.
I'm convinced that's the only reason we beat him.
Dan,
he was just a tough guy, and he was like, "I'm
Yeah.
invincible." I'm like, "It's freezing out there."
That would drive me nuts as a Cubs fan. Dan said he said the same thing. He agrees that the sleeves were the problem. But like as a fan, even if there's a chance, maybe it will affect you, unless he says like I cannot pitch with sleeves on. But if that was like a tough guy Hardo thing, boy, does that suck. I do remember my favorite part of that series. I remember, but I hate it because then it came back to bite us the very next series with the Royals. That one stat that was like the Cubs can't hit pitching over 95 miles an hour, like the worst fastball hitting team or whatever it was, or their numbers dropped drastically, right? It was like 95 and below, they were an all-star team. 95 and up, they couldn't touch it. And we obviously had guys throwing gas, and watching that actually play out, one of those broad, like overarching stats never like actually happen, right? And then that whole series, like we just blew them away. And then the very next series was contact. And the Royals don't strike out. They always put the ball in play. And I was like, how bad could that be? And then we had 70,000 errors, and Luke, we don't have to rehash that. But man, that NLCS was probably the most fun I've ever had as a Mets fan.
This is a roller coaster ride of an episode right now.
You know what it is? I'm still absolutely kind of buzzing from the 3G. I went overboard last night, and I woke up this morning and I was like, oh boy, it's going to be an interesting day.
But
the episode is perfect about how the week went, though.
Yeah,
we were riding high to start, and then now we're on the downwards dip. They just won the series. Now they're going to lose this series. It is what it is.
Poetic. It's very poetic.
The whole season has just been disjointed. Like I kind of get mad that all the other fan bases, you could just tell on Twitter, everyone's kind of in their groove now. But it's like we had a Corona out to start the season, so first series just gone. We had rain outs, then we had a snow out in Colorado, which was ridiculous, and now we're kind of just like getting things consistent. But I feel like tomorrow there could be like a sun out. What the fuck is a sun out? I don't know, but like the sun is going to cancel a game. So at this point, like. It just feel like we're kind of still getting our sea legs here. We said this after in the post game, and I come back to that DeGrom start on Saturday when he had he was one short of the Seaver record, and we were all ready to jump off a bridge if they lost that game. Then they come back. That like the feeling from that game kind of brings me back. Like it centers me out, gets me back on the road to 96. The 96ers are fine, but at the same and going off of that as well, I am so happy we don't have to go to Colorado or Wrigley again this season, because always like going to those two places in the heat of the summer when the balls are flying I don't like that. I'm a National League Baseball guy. I like 3-2 games. I don't like 10-9. My bullpen is taxed for fucking a week afterwards. Mm-hmm. Get these games out of the way now, and we'll worry. The weather sucks, whatever. But come August when we're just playing against fucking Washington and Philly, that's perfectly fine with me.
Unless the only thing I'll say is there's one time I like to play in Colorado, and it's in the month of August when you have just traded for Yoenis Cespedes. Because in that case, do you remember that series? He like single-handedly massacred them, and that was when we were like officially on a yo streak. But yeah, I'm with you, man. Those like
that's when I fell in love with him. Like they said, when did you fell in love with your whatever? I fell in love with that, and I was like, oh, this is real. This is real love.
It was so good. But yeah, these games in these places are always kind of weird. Like tonight is a 7:40 start. So what is that out there? 6:40?
Yeah.
I don't get that. I don't know why they do that. I wanted to ask the Chicago guys that.
What the hell is a 7:40, 6:40 Central start? Like, they do things weird out there. And you know it's Chicago, so they're going to be like, nah, man, 6:40 starts are the best because it's the most beautiful city in America. And have you seen our flag? We watch the games in the garage at 6:40. It's so Chicago, man. Like, shut up. What the fuck are you guys talking about? Why do you do this weird shit and claim it's the best thing in the world? So, so what we got the Nationals this weekend. And then next week, we got that little Red Sox 2-game, weird ass series. That's always fun. So that's what, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So we got some shit coming up that
maybe do a little Section 10, handshake of something. Like I don't like Carabas having Coley as one of his, side men, his henchmen during this too, because Coley has a silver tongue. So I like being
exactly. He's a henchman. He's a henchman for sure. I feel like Rocket, Rocket's kind of like Dr. Claw. He sits there in the launch pad. I can see him spinning around and being like, Coley, go get him. And Coley's like, what? He cracks his knuckles and walks at you and fucking kills you. I want a little
rock steady.
I'm hoping, yes, yeah. I'm hoping we have 2 nights of Tied in the Eighth with the Section 10 We Gotta Believe crew, and we just have 8 people in a fucking Zoom all rooting for different things and Tied in the Eighth. So that should be fun. The Red Sox, they're surprising the fuck out of people. But
everyone that had that slow start too.
I know.
I'm in the Athletics.
It's like, this is how it goes. That's why people are getting so bent out of shape. And it's hypocritical because I, at times am that guy. Tonight I might be that guy. The sky was falling the night of the gala. So, but when you really take a step back, as much as I'm freaking out, if you were to ask me, is Lindor a bust? Fucking.
Well, let me ask this, because I checked this out. This was before the Cubs games, but I don't think much has changed. There's no chance that the Mets finish up 28th out of 30 in runs scored per game. That's where they are right now. They're one of the worst offenses.
On that wood, yeah.
I mean, when you look at this team, I mean, it would be very Mets. So, of course, there is a chance that, suddenly, Lindor, Alonso, Dom Smith, McNeil, all of these guys don't
turn off,
hit. I mean, when you look at that lineup, I was like, this is going to be a good lineup. They're going to score a decent amount of runs. And there are other problems that mean we might not win 96 games. But that offense is something that I was like, this should score you enough runs to get there. But it doesn't look like it right now. But you got to think in the long run that they're going to score some runs. I would hope. I mean, that's our only shot, really. Because if they average bottom 10% of the league.
If this is the offense, we're totally fucked. I will say, minus last night, if this is the pitching, I think we're in good shape. I mean, I think Stroman emerging as a legit number 2 is great, because I did not think that was really going to happen. I know Stroman's got the goods. I know he was playing for his contract, but I just wasn't sure if he was really going to pitch the way he is. And that having somebody to back up Jake is incredible. That is so valuable to have. So if those 2 guys are going to be at the top of the rotation, and then
speaking of Dr. Claw, look at Clem right now.
He's looking at the shadow. Next time, Gadget. Next time.
What was his cat's name? Does it have a name?
It must have.
I'm gonna look it up, and I'm gonna see if you guys can guess it.
He worked for Chaos, right? Wasn't that the organization?
Okay, I take your guesses. What is Dr. Claw's cat's name?
I'm gonna say
it's got to be.
The cat was named Dr. Claw. It's like Indiana Jones. The dog was named Indiana.
I like that, but no. Any other guesses?
Mephisto.
No, but that is. I like that. Kyle, guess.
Something like Mr. Bigglesworth?
No, it's Mad Cat. MAD, which is that's the crime organization that Dr. Claw works for. They work for MAD, which I don't think they're
By the way, I'm pretty sure that this is well outside the limits of the listener base in terms of like, if they're a Bond fan, they'll know, but otherwise they're like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
No idea. But I just don't know what I'm looking up. I'm on Inspector Gadget Wiki, which is wild. I mean, they got the whole.
Can we retroactively
this page, man? Can I do a sharing?
Do a 3G read right now? Do a 3G read. They don't sponsor this podcast.
Honestly, I've got the bags over here. Give me that.
What was his niece's name? I don't even remember that.
Penny.
We're gonna throw you We're gonna throw you a bone. This right here is what's still going on in my brain. Can I share my screen? Share screen. Share screen. Oh.
Pick the tab.
Yeah, but I gotta do this. I gotta share.
Downloads on the.
Yeah. Chrome has lost permission to capture your screen.
Oh boy.
Fuck it. The point being that this has the etymology, the appearances, the personality. They got trivia for Mad Cat. You want to know what bro, he has a Polish name. His Polish name is, I can't even say it, Szalejot. Szalejot.
Do you know? I'm pretty sure there's a conspiracy theory where they say that Dr. Claw is the original Inspector Gadget, and then Inspector Gadget is an android.
What?
Yeah, like he's like a robot. He's like the robot clone of the original Inspector Gadget, and the original Inspector Gadget is the bad guy now.
Damn.
The original Inspector Gadget. Yeah, I'm still high. That is a cool. I'm gonna go back and rewatch Inspector Gadget with all that in my brain now. Wow, it's like he's like Jason Bourne, like he was like broken down, and now he's lashing out. But yeah, Mad Cat. Okay, why
just imagine diehard Mets fans listening to this?
Why did we talk about this?
It's because I look like Dr. Claw.
Dr. Claw. Okay. Wait, why am I here? What's happening right now?
I will say to Bren's point though, Bren, you said 28th. I went back and looked it up because I was like, I feel like last year we were just absolutely terrible in terms of scoring runs. We were first in the entire league in batting average, which I didn't realize last year.
Yes, I know.
And we were 13th in runs scored. So last year was incredibly frustrating, and we still finished 13th in baseball. So I feel like we have to be like at worst middle of the pack, at absolute worst.
I think
before allow that to happen again, right?
Now you really just turned into Inspector Gadget. You were talking like a robot, like. I think last year was just runners in scoring position was the fiasco, right?
Yeah. I think so.
But yeah, last year that was the season where we were the only team to never make the playoffs with an OPS over. So like, the Mets can be bad even when they're good. And there was
another year where runners in scoring position was like the main thing. And that's just absolutely the most frustrating thing in the world. Cause it's just like, oh, you could do everything except the only thing that matters.
That season or seasons of if the Mets score 4 runs, they win the baseball game.
But they
period facts, like end of statement. And we just could never score 4 runs. Not asking for much. And it's like, when the Mets score 9 runs, they win. It's like, no fucking kidding. But we're just asking for 4, and we couldn't get it.
That was the point people were making about the JD Davis stuff too, where it was like I was pissed off and saying like this is bullshit. Like he's losing us the game, and someone replied they scored 1 run. I'm like, yeah, no, you're not wrong. Like we actually didn't do anything anywhere else either, but I'm just gonna blame it on that guy because I have anger issues with the Mets right now.
Yeah, and like the thing with JD too, it's like Guillorme. I like Guillorme. I think he can hit, but JD Davis is a legit bat, and if he gets cooking, and that's the thing is he's knocking in runs as he's allowing runs as well. So it does help the offense having him in there, even if Guillorme could do a decent job as well. So it's kind of hard to be like, well, it's all JD Davis's fault when we're scoring like 2 runs, 1 run, and we're still losing. It's just
because if we had seen if we lost that game by 1 run because of a JD Davis error, but he also hit a home run and had a few RBIs, I think we'd be like, this is what we signed up for. This is what we knew was going to happen. The offense, but the offense was going to show up, but the defense is going to cost you some games. But when both are happening at the same time, it's pretty frustrating.
Yeah. Isn't baseball such a dumb sport where? The best of the best, I guess it's every sport, but the best of the best in the world still sometimes just can't throw the ball to first base. and a lot of times, like oftentimes, But I feel like, and I guess, there are basketball players who miss free throws, and there are football players who fumble and shit. But boy, it feels like in baseball, it's a stupid, stupid sport that somehow has my heart.
Evil. It's an evil sport, Kevin. An evil sport. Yet we're going to be there every single night at 7:40 whenever these goddamn assholes play their stupid baseball games.
Well, we had Glenny Balls on the program on Rundown yesterday, and he was just like, and we talked about the gala, and he's just kind of like, yeah, I just watch the games. I'm just here for fun. I'm like, you're here for fun? You do this just for fun? This is fun to you? This is a game? It's not a fucking game, man. Like, I wish it was that way for me, but heavens to Betsy.
And you have officially introduced your daughter into this now. So you've now brought your daughter, your own flesh and blood into this world, which was a truly heartwarming moment. For anyone who didn't see it, I'm sure Kyle can put some of the audio in there of all this, because we threw it in Podfathers, and me and Large talked about how awesome it was. You did it obviously in a Cohen world. You couldn't have done this to her in a Wilpon world. That would be a problem. But now you have Shea Girl Shea, and I don't think anyone, I told you this. Large is currently hoping that Keegan becomes a Yankees fan. And I was like, dude, that's just not right. If you want to punch him in the face, if you see him at the office, he'll fall like a ton of bricks, dude. He's a big man, but he's not a fighter.
Listen, that's, first of all, one of the meanest things I've ever heard in my life. That is pure evil thoughts. And second of all, like, that ain't fucking happening, man. Like, I don't care what my son says or does. He's not being a Yankees fan. He won't want to be a Yankees fan, okay? That's the concern here always has been that, like, my kids, our kids, the next generation of Mets fans won't want to be a Mets fan because they're the Mets, and that they would want to be a Yankees fan because of the pinstripes and the bombers and they're winning and they're fun. Who the fuck wants to root for the Yankee fans in the office? Don't want to root for the Yankees right now. Tommy Smokes is calling for Boone's head. The effort. Who was it yesterday who was just jogging to first off of a little nubber to the pitcher, and he just put his head down and was just walking to first base on a play that should have been bang bang. There's no effort. Boone's giving the same old canned responses. We gotta just take it one pitch at a time. Get the fuck out of here. Being a Yankee fan right now stinks. So I am not worried about my kids picking the Bronx. But yeah, that was a cool moment. It genuinely was one of the best moments of my life where it all just happened naturally. I said this in the first part of the video, and I don't know if you have had this moment, Clem. I realized my kids have never seen me be a maniac. For the Clem, I can't even. You just look ridiculous.
Wait.
It's amazing.
I kind of like.
You look like
being the shadow
a gang wars guy. Like you're the informant for the.
Yeah, Clem, start talking. Change your voice for the rest of the podcast.
I actually had a moment when I had my first crazy moment. Remember when Daniel Jones scored the touchdown against Tampa Bay in his first start, and I was just jumping around, and my kids just didn't know what was happening, and at that moment, I realized I'm a crazy person, and I said, I want to relay this craziness to you. So that has happened to me, Kevin.
That's really. I mean, it was the tie run, the game tying run, and I went I stood up and I was like, whoa, come on down, something crazy like that. And Shay legitimately went, and she's kind of a scaredy cat, but she was like, whoa, what was that? She looked at my mom, grandma. She was kind of she had her hands in her teeth. She's like, is everyone okay? She was nervous about it. So that's why I picked her up, and I was like, they've either been bad or I just haven't been around them in big moments. So yeah, daddy's a fucking sociopath. Here we go. And then, you know what? I got to give a shout out to school, to just school, because I've been complaining about them since forever for the amount of money that it costs for my kids to go to glorified babysitting. And they come home and sure, they're learning words and math and all those things. That maybe is important. But this prior week was baseball week at the school. It was opening day-ish. And the whole week they learned to take me out to the ball game. So she was running around singing, take me out to the ball game. She learned, I guess, a little bit about how you play the game. And then the final, this is a funny story too for the Podfathers. the final day, the Friday of baseball week, you had to wear some baseball gear of your choosing to school. So Shay's mom says to me, and I have the kids on Thursday nights. So Shay's mom says to me, I packed the Mets dress and the Yankees shirt. Like, we'll see who wins the battle. And she sent like an emoji with two guys like battling. And I was kind of like, yeah, we'll see who wins. They're at my house tonight. I'm going to win. So she wore the Mets dress, and then her teacher wore something Mets. So they clicked. And she really like learned a little bit about baseball and certainly learned about the Mets. And so she was excited. And she said to me, I'm actually a Mets fan. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I didn't even force it upon you. I didn't have to tell you to say that. Like, you just did it yourself. And then she was loving like all the dramatics of it. But I did, when I screamed, put it in the books, she got like scared. And I kind of snapped back to reality. And I was like, do I want to do this to my child? Do I really want her to go down this road? Do I want her sitting on these kind of podcasts being like, why is there no DH? But I think right now, you know, if you had to pick, or if you were, let's say you're an alien, you come down and you're not using any past biases, you would make your kids a Mets fan. You really would. And aliens would be like, we have to root for this team. You know, these other guys are like kind of on the way out. They're not the young fun team to pick. I think the Mets would be just on paper, trying to block out what we know is probably inevitable. But on paper, I think I made the smart decision.
Hopefully the aliens would be like, it's been 12 games. Let's give it a minute. Let's see. This is an advanced civilization. I think they're going to be like, let's wait and see.
Those aliens are like, Francisco Lindor stinks. He's terrible. I don't know why he makes so much money. This money they talk about, this currency they use on planet Earth. It's true. It's an awesome moment. Sienna is a Mets fan as well, and like she even has like a little like. She could tell, like, she's like, oh, you're a Yankees fan? I'm a Mets fan. And you get proud of that. But then it's like, God, I hope they don't screw this up for you so that you live the life I lived for, the last 30 plus years. So we've definitely we're in the end game now, right? As parents, the last couple of years, we were kind of on the fence about what we were going to do. I was just going straight, make them lacrosse fans, not even pay attention to baseball. Now we are all in on this. Hopefully Keegan, I can honestly see AJ being a Yankees fan or like a Braves fan just to be an asshole to me because I don't think he likes me very much. Yeah, but we're really in the end game now, so I don't know what's going to happen here. But that was goddamn moment there. So I think it kind of makes it all worth it when it's all said and done.
I don't know if you can do this, but like to me, I'm just cutting the deal that I'm like, you have to be a Mets fan, but you can pick any other team in any other sport. I don't care. Like you can root directly against the Knicks. You can burn Jets jerseys. Like I don't.
Well, Clem,
like,
I feel like
do whatever you want.
I feel like Clem, you lean more Knicks on like your importance.
No, Mets because Mets, it's like the 162 games just turns you into a different human. And the Knicks have been so bad for so long. They're kind of just like a dead relative that I buried. And it's like, oh shit, they might be alive right now.
If they're in the coffin, like clawing, like, oh shit, we buried him too soon. You're still alive. Would you be okay with AJ or Sienna being a Brooklyn Nets fan?
Oh yeah, I could live with that. I can honestly live with like a Jets fan, or as long as they're not like an Eagles fan, a Cowboys fan, a Yankees fan, a Phillies fan. Like
that's
the
what I said is
blood rivals.
Make them restricted free agents.
Yes,
you can pick your team, but here's a list of
no trade clause. No trade list.
That I'm fine with. That list for me like would be no Yankees, no Phillies.
Braves?
No Braves.
But no, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It has to be the Mets. You have to root for the Mets. But you can I hate the Patriots with a burning passion. You can root for the Patriots. I don't care.
If it was the Wilpons, I would not.
Oh yeah, then I would say it can't be the Mets then.
Right.
I'd say anybody else.
But now that it's just, the Cohen era is here and they may or may not live up to like his hype, whatever. And baseball is kind of like this dying sport, quote unquote, with the youth. If they wanted to be a fan of someone else, it just can't be, if they wanted to be like a Padres fan, it'd be like, all right, watch your fucking West Coast games and like just stay out of my way. But you can't be Phillies, Yankees, Braves. Like a Nats fan would bother me, but I'm not gonna, if I only had like 3 slots. And then on the football side of things, like you just can't be a Patriots fan.
Yeah, and that's weird though. I think there's I think it's mostly younger fans, but some people think of the Nats as like the blood rivals of the Mets. No. And I'm like, I don't know. I definitely don't like them, but the Braves is deeply ingrained in me, and the Phillies are like just I don't know why I hate the Phillies as much.
The Braves rattling off like 14 straight, where they literally ruined the '90s for me when I was coming up as a baseball fan. Like they could be the worst team in baseball for the next decade. I will always hate the Braves, and then the same with the Phillies, where it was like you had Ryan Howard and Rollins. They were great, and it's just like. The Nats are an afterthought all the time. Even when they won the World Series, like, did I want them to win? No. But when they won, I was like, who gives a fuck?
Right. I feel I don't have that same passion. I agree with that. Basketball was like, we'll see if the Nets win a title this year, if things change with like the bandwagonness and if they become more, if the fan base becomes more like unbearable. But I said this a couple weeks ago, and it's probably only more so now that the Knicks are rattling off all these wins. Like the Nets are the best assembled team out there. They're a fucking walking all-star team, and nobody in the city cares. They truly. I hope I can convey this to people not in New York. The newspapers don't care. Social media doesn't care. We don't care.
But the Knicks winning 7 in a row, buzzing.
Yeah. And even, any team wins 7 in a row, you're going to be hyped up. When the Knicks were just 500, remember that time they were all dancing outside the Garden? It's just like, I don't know what the Nets would have to do to win over the city. It would probably start with winning a title. That'll probably go a long way if they were to win one. But even that, let's say the Knicks are making noise in the playoffs this year, but the Nets go on to win. What if it was Nets-Knicks Eastern Conference Finals somehow, and the Nets go on to win the whole thing, but the Knicks took them to like 7 games, and it was like a rivalry, like a blood feud type of series. I mean, the Nets would have the crown, but I feel like the story would still be like the Knicks are back in contention, which is crazy to think, but I do think that would be the vibe. No,
I agree 100%. And I mean, you see all the videos. There was one last night of a whole bunch of people just going crazy on 7th Ave after the win. And then, I mean, even on social media, which is kind of like the new age version of like getting a temperature of everything. It's all about the Knicks. It's a lot of celebrities are tweeting about the Nets don't have that. I think the Nets could get there, but they'd almost have to do like what the Spurs were, right? And that's not the way their franchise is built. They're built to like probably get 1 or 2 in the next few years if everything goes right. But I don't think like more people are then going to be like, all right, let me like reload with the Nets here. I think it's just going to become the next thing. And if the Knicks actually, God willing, can get their goddamn heads out of their asses and build this thing, they'll be kind of in the mix down the road now because they actually seem to know what they're doing and they're building the franchise. And James Dolan is staying as far away from it as possible. So there was a guy.
How about Derrick Rose, Glenn?
I know. And that's all you need to know is Derrick Rose is like beloved now. After last time he was here, he was part of the super team, which was a goddamn running punchline. And now we're part of the Big 15 here. We have a Big 15 in the Garden. There was a guy on Barstool Radio who once told me and Hubs not to get their hopes up about this very Knicks team. Luckily, that man no longer has a radio show on Barstool Radio. Thank God. Because he didn't know what he was talking about. He was dead wrong about that. This team is special. Thibodeau is special. We're coming for the 3 seed, Giannis, you Greek motherfucker. We're coming for you.
Yeah, listen, man. There's no denying it. The Knicks are the fucking. When LeBron is casually tweeting about you, being like, "Yeah, man, this team is good, and like the league is better because of it." I don't want to say that like you've arrived or you're back, but when
one of LeBron's better tweets this week.
LeBron just needed to word things a little differently. I think that was, but I guess that's what the definition of a bad tweet is. Guys, my tweet wasn't bad. I just needed to word it differently. The words that I chose for the tweet were the wrong words. But if I chose different words, it wouldn't have been a bad tweet.
You chose some very, very different words.
But the Knicks are like, we've said it a million times that when they're good, the whole city's vibing and they're doing the damn thing. I'm upset because I always thought to myself, when the Knicks do get good again, I'll like ease my way back in and start watching and kind of earn my way back into like and it's just happened so quick this year when I didn't expect it at all, that it's like I couldn't possibly just jump into the playoffs now and start acting like it's life and death. But I certainly will enjoy watching them play meaningful basketball again. And if you could get some, Clem, as a gypsy, where we always clash in basketball, football, obviously. But if you could get a summer of Mets baseball being good, coming off of a great postseason with the Knicks, you'd be one happy boy.
One very happy boy, and it is a weird team too. Like it's a fun team. It's like a young team. There's a good vibe. Randall is just a guy who like worked his ass off. It's almost like he's become Daniel Murphy in the playoffs a couple years ago. He's doing it for the whole season because he drove us bananas last year. He would just spin in the lane and he didn't know what was going to happen. Travel, turnover, or maybe 2 points. And it was absolute chaos. And he's just become like this completely different dude. But again, they built the whole franchise. And that's the thing I'm not going to get upset about if my kids were to choose the Nets. It's like, all right, like you just are kind of choosing like rooting for like an irrelevant team right now that might win the goddamn title this year when New York is, it's one with the Knicks. And even with a couple of Nets fans, it's the Yankees plus the Mets fans, and we're getting together. And that's why I think Big Cat said it, like, don't get too happy for those Knicks fans celebrating because a lot of them are Yankees fans, and you're happy for Yankees fans right there. And that's the dirty little secret. And as a gypsy with my Giants, I know it's a lot of Yankee gabagool fans that I'm rooting along with too. But yeah,
that's why I don't like the Giants. That's like exactly the reason I could never choose the Giants, because they're all Yankee fans. And then you have the weird exception in Clem, and it's like, wait, I'm confused here. It breaks my brain.
Yeah, this is true. That but you have to separate. It's like I have to separate the Red Sox fans from the Patriots fans. You gotta have.
Those are different people to me. Completely different. They're completely different people to me. Like there's two Jared Robinsons, there's two John Feidelbergs. He's a great person when he's a Red Sox fan. He's terrible when he's a Patriots fan.
It really, really is true for sure.
That's like this is the duality of me. When I turn into the black, that's me as the Giants fan, the evil Giants fan, and then I come into the light on the Mets fan that you guys like.
Come to the light. Come to the light. So, I mean, listen, anyway, the Cubs series, not great. Specifically that game, nightmare. If you can pull out a win tonight, or if you're listening to this on Friday, hopefully we already got a win. It's a long season. You're going to have – things just we're good for a little bit. We got high. Things are going to get low. We're going to get low.
And that's what Lindor said too. He's echoing that, which I really do like. He's very even keeled. He's like, listen, if we lose 50 games all season, it means we won 112. Like that's not going to happen. We're going to lose baseball games. He's like, you just don't want to lose like that when you do lose. He's like, he'd rather lose in a 3-2 game where they're in it all the time. And I think if 96.
A loss is the loss. Like win's a win, loss is a loss.
Right.
It could be 2-1, could be 16-4. Let's get all that shit out now. You're also, I feel like if that was a Stroman game, the DeGrom game, we're in trouble. I think you're going to see some clunkers from Peterson. I think, the bullpen is going to have shitty games throughout. Like, let's combine it all into one spot, get it out of the system. And so Kyle, you're saying DeGrom could have started tonight or last night? He could have started
tonight. He could have started tonight.
We could have stopped. Yeah. Well, I say we could have stopped the losing streak. That's not really true. Like we could have had a great 6 or 7 innings tonight for sure, but they elected to not mess with the rotation at all. So we got Joey Fuego trying to stop the bleeding, and then like I said, onto the Nats and Red Sox. So I mean, it just is what it is. There's that was the holes of the Mets, like the back end rotation. The defense and the bullpen on display. Offense wasn't great, but they still put a few up on the board. Otherwise, those are our 3 main holes that all were a problem all in one spot. You're going to get your ass kicked for sure when you do that.
I feel good about this team. I'm telling you, the 96 has not wavered in the least, even after last night. I know we have a couple spots on defense, which hasn't been as bad outside of a certain person who I will not name out of respect. Our starting pitching, again, fucking Stroman looks awesome so far, and I know he's not going to be this all season. Taiwan, his pitch count gets high really quick, but I feel like some of that was due to some defense and some bad umping. But I think he won't be like a Cy Young candidate. I think he's a perfectly fine 3. Peterson, I actually think is going to be more better than worse.
Mo better.
I wish Matt wasn't fucking just dominating the American League right now. That would make this all a little easier, right?
That's hurting. It's not feeling great.
And then Joey Fuego. If Joey, that's the thing. Joey Fuego just has to not be bad. I'm going to be on his side because of his nickname. So Joey Fuego
more ridiculous now in this.
Joey Fuego, just do your thing. Noah comes back in. I mean, fuck. I'm thinking Noah coming back in June. Carrasco's coming back.
Yeah, so like we got almost like these little like moves that are going to happen.
Those guys come back in June, and then you move Peterson and Lucchesi, or however you want to flip flop it, into the bullpen for an innings eater with Gesellman. I mean, listen, if those guys come back and are even like 60% of whatever we could think that they would be, we're in good shape, boys.
And I mean, imagine if somehow Noah comes back, throwing hammers, throwing the Thor hammer, like then you really start cooking. So chill out,
baby. Chill out. Get your Coors Light.
The rest of our notes here to see if we got anything else.
Harvey got the W. That was nice. I'm rooting for Harvey. I really am.
Yeah. Well, now it's at the beginning it was like I don't want it to be good because I don't want the bullshit, Mets blew it again and all that. But it's been long enough and he's been down enough that he deserves to. Hopefully he knows how to pee and he can feel better about that and go out there and pitch. But I just want to wrap up here just to make sure, DeGrom at 28 Ks in 2 starts. He is unbelievable. And I just don't want people to ever, ever, ever forget it. I think every episode we will end with just reminding people you are witnessing greatness. You are watching greatness. You are watching generational talent for a franchise that who is known for, the only good thing they're known for is stellar pitching. And DeGrom might end up being the best of all of those guys. So he's quiet about it. The losses are kind of, it feels like it somehow like mitigates it or diminishes it. It doesn't. So just make sure you watch every pitch, every start, every inning, because, chicks dig the long ball and everyone likes big offense and the DH and all that shit. Watching Jacob deGrom go to work is like watching, Michelangelo sculpt and Da Vinci paint and all that. It's true greatness. Don't ever take it for granted.
That we almost need to add that into gotta believe, don't take Jacob deGrom for granted, or it's a privilege and an honor to watch that young man.
Yes. So respect it, watch it, enjoy it, and we'll get back on track here, baby. We're fine. We're totally fine. No big deal. Everybody relax. Everybody chill out.
We have, and this is the thing, we got the Nats, I'm sure the Braves coming up at some point. Acuna's hurt, Soto's hurt. Like teams are going through their shit as well.
Nats are like down big time, right? I mean, everybody's hurt or missing or whatever. Yep. So, all right, we'll be back next week. I'm sure, make sure you follow along on Instagram at We Gotta Believe, where we're doing these a couple times a week. We do like an Instagram takeover. We're doing all sorts of videos and posts on the IG stories. So watch the game and kind of follow along with us. Of course, on Twitter, Gotta Believe Pod. But we're doing a lot of work over on Instagram, and we'd love to get those numbers up. So make sure you follow We Gotta Believe on IG.
And TikTok.
Huh?
And TikTok.
And TikTok. We also got
join the Facebook group. We got a live message board going.
Subscribe on YouTube for the ClemTube. And we're already at an hour here. We're going to wrap up, but I do want to say next week I want to learn about the Mafia group. I don't know anything about these fucking Mets fans.
Oh,
105 Mafia and the rivalry with they do the roll call and all that shit. Like we got to talk. So we got some things to address. So next episode we'll dive into the state of the Mets fans, because you got the 7 line, you got Mets Fans Anonymous, you got this weird fucking Mafia group, you got that kid that everybody hates. There's a lot to dive into, and I don't want to just cram it in here for the last couple minutes since we're already at an hour. So next week we'll dedicate all of that to them, and then in the meantime, buckle up. Hopefully, right now we're at one of the lows of the roller coaster. We're going to start that click up to the top. So
and then
enjoy the ride.
down.
And then we'll go back down, but enjoy the ride to the top for this week, and continue as always to believe.
Gotta believe.
Gotta